Hi guys, it's Pavi with a weekly roundup of the week that's just gone in tennis. Yet another exciting week in tennis, both on the men's and women's side. I'll do a quick video, although they're never really that quick, are they? Just kind of summarising the week that's just gone and looking forward to the coming week and the coming weeks ahead as well. If you haven't already done so, as I've mentioned a few times, if you watch these videos, I am now uploading my videos on YouTube as well as X. So if you're not subscribing to me on YouTube, then please do so. Pavi G. I will be doing my own podcast, which is going to be launching later on this month. I think, this month or in early March. So in a few weeks, I will be doing my own podcast where I'll be interviewing some very, very interesting people that are involved in tennis. But we will start with the week that's just gone. And where do I start with? I think I'm going to start with the women's tour this time, because something absolutely sensational happened, and it's Belinda Bencic has just won a WTA 500 event in Abu Dhabi. And the reason why it's so sensational was that, as many of you know, Belinda Bencic was out of the game for over a year. She was pregnant with her first daughter and gave birth to her daughter, Bella, beautiful, healthy baby girl, just 10 months ago. So anyone who has given birth, and I've taken advice from my wife, my mum, my sister, will know that a lot of you will say how difficult it is to get back to getting your fitness and motivation, and kids take out a lot of energy, but especially for the women as well, who have to go through so much through the whole pregnancy and then giving birth and seeing their body change. It takes a lot. So for Belinda Bencic to come back onto the tour and to win a 500 event, so quite a major event in the WTA with a lot of good players that entered there this week, was simply sensational. So I just wanted to give her huge congratulations. We're talking at the moment in tennis where, tennis is being a bit murky, and there's all these things going off with the drugs cases. So to see someone like Belinda Bencic, who must have worked so hard to get back into condition, she even made her comeback on the ITF. So she was willing to drop down, go into qualifiers, go through the qualifying process, just work really hard in the gym, on court, off court. At the same time, she's a doting and caring mother. So there's so much going on, and for her to go on and win that title was really special. And I've got a lot of time for Belinda Bencic. She played a lot of tournaments in the UK as a teenager, so I got to see her live. I've met her a couple of times, and she's a really lovely person. What really struck me about Belinda Bencic was how kind of down to earth and humble she was. She was, it was almost like talking to a normal person. She had no airs or graces about being a professional tennis player. And she's continued that, and I think she's very popular on the tour. She's a fantastic player. Before she took the time off to give birth to her daughter, she was playing some really good tennis. She'd broken into the top 10, so I don't see why she can't get back to where she is. She's now going to be ranked inside the top 100. I think she's going to be about 65. I still think the WTA should do more with regards to women taking time off for pregnancies and giving birth in terms of their rankings. I don't think they should be penalised, and Bencic's ranking went outside the top 150. Yes, she gets a protected ranking, which means she can still use that protected ranking. I think, I'm not sure if it's for 6 or 8 events, but she can't use it for all of them. So obviously, she would use them for the slams as a priority, and possibly some other events as well. But I think they should be able to resume as many events as they can, and the wild card priority has to be given to these people because they shouldn't really be penalized for being pregnant, and it's part of life, and you look at any other employment, when women take off or on maternity leave, they get fully paid for it, and I don't think the tennis players should be any different in that. They shouldn't be penalized in terms of their ranking, so hopefully they can do something on that. But yeah, to start off with, Belinda Bencic, what a role model, what an inspiration. And she's still, in her mid-20s, she's still very, very young. And it's, people, sometimes you hear tennis players saying, they have to wait until the 30s to start a family. And I think Bencic has kind of shown that, you can do that still at a young age and come back. And so that's a real big testament to her, and excited to see how she gets on. I did put a tweet out there, which was a little bit controversial in that I was kind of criticising the fact that Emma Raducanu was given a main draw wild card for Doha. On the back end, she had lost 3 matches on the spin, including to a player ranked outside the top 100. She then lost yesterday in the first round to Alexandrova, so she's lost 4 times now consecutively. And you've got Bencic, who's 13-2 this year, bang on form. And you would just think that she would be prioritised as a main draw wild card, just on the fact that she's playing high level tennis, and any tournament organizer will want the best players there as opposed to the more popular ones. So I don't know, people are going to have different views on that, but that was just my opinion. Sticking to the women's tour, we're going to talk a little bit about Russia and Belarus. So we're only into February, so it's still very early in the season. We've had Arina Sabalenka, who's from Belarus, who won Brisbane, runner-up at Australian Open. We had Alexandrova winning Linz last week, WTA 500. And today, and this week, we've had Anastasia Potapova, who won the WTA 250 event in Cluj. So huge congratulations to her. It was her first title in a couple of years. But my point really is that you've got a lot of Russian and Belarusian players that are bang on form, but they are still not allowed to play in a team sport. And if you look at the 2 premier team sports on the men's and the women's tour, for the men's you have the Davis Cup, and for the women's you have the Billie Jean Cup, Billie Jean King Cup. They cannot play in those tournaments because they are Russian. I just find that astounding. I mean, who makes this decision? Where's it coming from? Russia are at war with Ukraine. We understand that, but are they automatically assuming that because Russia allegedly invaded first, they're at fault? If that's the case, when the UK and the US invaded Iraq illegally in 2003, why were they not punished? So I want to know who is making these decisions, and I'm actually going to do a petition to try and get Russians and Belarusians to come back, because for me, these are independent professional athletes. They've got nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with what their leaders do. They just play, and they shouldn't be penalised in sport for just because of where they were born. And if you think of the mental impact this has on players, ever since, you look at 2022 when they started getting kind of banned and kind of almost, people were vilifying them just for being Russian. You look at the likes of Daniil Medvedev, he's not been the same for the last 3 years. You look at Andrei Rublev, who's been very open with his mental health issues. He's not said that it was due to this, but it could well be. And his dip in form has also coincided 2-3 years where he's had a struggle. And Sabalenka obviously talks about a number of challenges that she's had to face in the last few years. She is very, very mentally strong, but she's, coming on strong. But Azarenka's had a bit of a bleak couple of years as well. And you don't know what this does in the mindset of these players, not being able to play for your flag in a global sport. Obviously these players have to play as neutrals. So, when all these Russians and Belarusians are winning titles, you would normally have the national anthem or flag of your country draped on the trophy, and they've had none of that. It's almost like their identities have gone. So I think this is a really key point in tennis that none of your Mark Petchys or your Andy Roddick's will ever discuss about, because it's outside of the narrative. But it's important. We can't just sweep this under the rug and think no one's going to talk about it. And I implore the Russian and Belarusian foundations to really put some pressure on tennis, on ITF, ATP, WTA, on all of the slams, to say, look, enough is enough. We need to have our identities back, and I'm happy to support them, because I just think that, I'm not taking anyone's side. All wars are complex, so I'm not saying it's Ukraine's fault, I'm not saying it's Russia's fault. You've got Zelensky and Putin, that are two characters that are doing the best for their own countries. But none of these players should really be getting involved, for me, because it gets messy if you start involving all of that. And then if you punish one country, you've got to punish other countries. So why is it just Russia? So that's my point on that matter. So yeah, but for the WTA, delighted to see wins for Belinda Bencic and also for Anastasia Potapova. Moving on to the men's, and my boy Denis Shapovalov. He's a fellow anti-establishment guy. I love him because he really kind of vocalizes his thoughts, and he's not kind of intimidated. A bit like Novak, a bit like Nick. These are my kind of people that will kind of call it as it is, and Dennis is very much in that mold. He's struggled in the last couple of years. He's had a few injuries, but he burst onto the scene at 18, 19, and everyone was kind of predicting that he was going to be a world number one, and he made semi-finals of slams, and he was really starting to motor. I think he got right up to top 10, I think he made, or around that figure. So he was really motoring, and then all of a sudden his kind of career derailed so much that he was outside. This time last year, he was outside the top 100. So he was almost having to be forced to play outside of the tour and play on the challenger events. And testament to Dennis. He's still only 25. This year, I think he made a really big conscious effort to put in the hard yards off court. He's changed a few things, and he's back with a smile on his face. He's back playing phenomenal tennis. That week that he played in Dallas, which you just look at who he beat. He beat Thomas Machak, world 25 in the world, bang on form. He beat the world number 4 Taylor Fritz, bang on form. He beat the world number 9 Tommy Paul, bang on form. And then he goes and beats Casper Ruud in the final. 3 top 10 players. The last player to have done that was Nick Kyrgios, I think 5 or 6 years ago now, probably even longer. So it's not a feat that is done often. So, obviously I'm delighted for Dennis. I've got a lot of time for Chapo. I love his brand of tennis. I love that he's got a personality as well, and the fact that, he vocalizes things that he's not happy with. And we need more of that in tennis. We need more players to call out all of the stuff that's going on in tennis. So a great win, for me, because I love Chapo on and off the court, and what a fantastic week he had as well. And last but not least, Carlos Alcaraz winning his first indoor title at the age of 21. He won the ATP 500 in Rotterdam. He really, what really impressed me with Alcaraz is it was clear that he was not feeling great. He was losing sets that he wouldn't lose to normally. He was struggling. Hurkacz in the semi-final looked like he was going to be, beat Alcaraz. He was losing sets against lower ranked players, and he was struggling with a cold. He had his nasal strip on, so he had breathing issues, and what really impressed me was that he just knuckled down and he found a way to win. He was nowhere near his best. So that's going to give him a huge amount of confidence, knowing that he was not at his best at that tournament and still won the tournament. There's no better feeling in tennis, in any sport, knowing when you're not at your best and you can still win. It gives huge amounts of confidence. So massive congratulations to Alcaraz. He's now won a title on every single surface in tennis. It just shows the fact that he can adapt. He's kind of flexible. He's got the game to match all surfaces. And again, I tweeted it at the time, and I firmly believe that. But I believe at the moment that Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz are the standout players on the tour, the number one and the two. I know they're not, they're not seeded 1 and 2. Djokovic hasn't played a lot recently. Alcaraz had a little bit of a rough end of last year, and that's why their kind of rankings have dropped. But I believe if those two are on their best form and they're fit, they are better than Yannick Sinner and Alexandra Zverev. Sinner, there's a lot of question marks for me until that hearing in April, so I can't. In my mind, I can't include him as being top of the pack because he's failed 2 drug tests for performance-enhancing substances. I don't care if it was a minuscule; it shouldn't be in your system, full stop. So I can't really judge Yannick Sinner. But I even, as it is, if Djokovic is fully fit, in my opinion, he still beats Yannick Sinner. If Carlos Alcaraz is at his best, in my opinion, he beats Yannick Sinner. So yeah, delighted. I really, really like Carlos Alcaraz's personality. I like his brand of tennis, and I think he's a breath of fresh air to the tour. So really, really pleased for him. So that kind of covers the events last week. I've done a separate video, which I think it merited for Simona Halep. Obviously, that was the big news off court. Last week was the announcement of her retirement. A phenomenal player, really one of the superstars, one of the greatest players that Romania have ever produced. 2 Grand Slams, former world number 1. I think there was a record that she was in the top 5 for about 10 years, which is not easy to do. Full credit to her, and I've done a separate video for her, but that was the big news kind of off court. In terms of what else is happening off court, 2 big news stories today. The first one is that it appears that Djokovic and Murray are going to continue their coaching relationship until at least Wimbledon. So that's I'm really, really pleased with that news. I've said a few times that I feel that particularly for Wimbledon, the knowledge that Andy has of grass courts is probably second to none. And I think he could really help Djokovic tactically and technically as well on the grass in terms of what he needs to do. In grass, you need to get up, you need to serve, volley, and then there's no better player that can tell you what you need to do on grass than Andy Murray. So that is really, really good news. With regards to Djokovic, he also, has been on the news yesterday to say that he is recovering well from his hamstring tear. So he's been having regular scans and physio on it. He's 3 weeks in from the injury. He's obviously scheduled to play in the ATP Doha next week. That would be 4 weeks post-injury. Is that going to be enough time? I don't know. Normally they say tears are kind of, anything between 3 to 6 weeks. So, it could be okay, but he will make a decision, I think, right near the time, and it will take advice from his medical team. But it's great to hear that he's doing really well. And, I believe after Doha, he will probably play Indian Wells and Miami, although he's not confirmed that. But I know his short-term target at the moment is to get his 100th title in tennis, and he's on 99. So I know he will want to try and get that as soon as possible as well. And that's pretty much it, really. Obviously, this week on the men's side, there's just 2 ATP 250s, 3 of them going on over the world. But it's the first 1,000 event of the tour on the women's side. So that's going to be in Doha. And all of the top players, all the top 10 players are playing apart from Madison Keys, who's unfortunately injured. But that's going to be an exciting week. I'm really, really, really looking forward to that. Obviously, I think Igor Swiatek has won the last 3 in Doha, I believe, last 2 or 3. So she will be one of the favourites. But this year, Sabalenka has been playing really, really well, and she'll be wanting to consolidate her place at the top of the rankings as well. So I think that's going to be an exciting week. So 20 minutes is what I wanted to do, and I'm bang on time. So 20 minutes is on the clock there. So that's me done. Yeah, so hope everyone is well and enjoying tennis. Stay safe. God bless everyone. And I'll be back with another video soon. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on my YouTube. Right, guys, see you later. Take care.